All right, we're back with Bernina Mastery for the accessories, Bernina Accessories Mastery. This is, I don't know what episode this is, it's a lot. There are many. We're on page 31. If you want to download the workbook that we're using, you can go to the very first episode of this in our playlist, and there'll be a link in the description for you to download the workbook. So you can get your workbook and print that off there. We are going to start off with a blanket stitch. So on page 32, we're going to start off with a blanket stitch. We're going to talk about the 20. Your number 20 foot. We actually have a 20D foot here. We're working with a dual feed machine. And of course the dual feed foot is the one with the little gap here for your dual feed to slide through. So, and the sensor up in here, so your machine knows what you have. You'll need to have your zigzag stitch plate in. You'll put your number 20 foot in there. The toes are open on this foot, and you've got a wide opening in the front there so that you can see exactly where your decorative stitches are going. So we've got our number 20 foot on and selected.
20 C comes with your
right
machine, some of them, but no, what am I doing?
No.
I don't know what I'm doing. Get out of there.
There you go. Yeah, the 20 comes with your machine. To get the 20D, that's a separate purchase, but the 20D is well worth it, especially if you're going to do any kind of density on your stitches. It's a good one. So what we're going to do, do you have your, yes. What we're going to do is a blanket stitch. The blanket stitch is one of my favorite stitches on this machine. Any of the Berninas. In particular, I use the double blanket stitch a lot. It is a beautiful stitch. It really finishes off your applique. I use the double blanket stitch all the time.
Now, something that I would say when you're doing this too, again, it's a sample. Sample it out to get the right stitch length, stitch width that you want. Don't start on here and then start enlarging and then, so I always just test. You also, I have on this, I've used Steam-A-Seam. And what's really nice about Steam-A-Seam is that once you stick it, you trace your pattern and then you stick it onto your fabric, cut around it, and then you're going to pull this back paper off, making sure that that sticky is there, and you can put it down. And if I don't like that position, I can lift that back up and I can put it wherever I want until I press it. Once it's pressed, then it's there. So I'm just going to kind of put this right here.
Okay, you've got a little piece of stabilizer underneath there too.
Now, once I get my whole thing done, then I would take it and I could press it before I sew it. Sometimes I don't. I just go to the sewing machine and sew it, and then I'll put a good press on
later,
it.
Yeah. Keep the bubbles out.
I also have stabilizer underneath. Whenever you're doing decorative stitches, you always want to use a tearaway stabilizer, something to help hold that in. So I'm going to go to my quilting stitches, and I'm going to go to the 1330, which is the double. That's the double. Now, again, I said I was going to do a little bit of just testing to see what size I want, because this is going to start out at 3.5 on the width and 3.50 on the stitch length. So let's just see if that's, and that looks like a pretty good. If you wanted it bigger, then you're just going to change the width and the length. You determine what you want.
So when you're thinking about the width of this stitch, one thing to keep in mind is how big of a curve are you going to have to go around. So the wider your stitches, the more difficult the curves are going to be.
Yep. So I can sit here and I'm going to line up I'm going to start out and lining up the, seeing where my swing is going over. And then I want to see where it is going to, come on. All right. No, see how far over I am on that? Mm-hmm. I don't want to be there.
There you are.
So now I've got it. So now I'm right on the edge of this. It's going to go back and forth.
So this takes a little getting used to. You've got to practice on this to be able to eyeball where you want to keep the edge of your work on this particular technique. But once you get it, you can go fast. But the stitch itself, it's just such a nice finished look.
You've used this on the pillow.
Oh yeah, I've used this a lot. I think this is a great stitch.
Now the more that you're getting into that curve, you never want to turn while you're when you're on the swing
Right.
side. You always want to be on the straight where it's going to sew straight. And this is why I like the knee lift, is because I can just go in there when I need to. When I start seeing where I'm going to go straight, when sewing is going to go kind of straight off, that's when I will give a little bit of a twist.
And you can always slow down when you're not sure what's going to happen with that. And that'll help you go around all those curves. You want your needle down for this technique. Needle stop down so that you can pivot when you want to.
And it's a good to kind of count how many times. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now it's going to swing. And so you're just going to go around, and you continue doing that all the way around, and you've got a nice blanket stitch on there. You're going to especially now when you start getting into here, now you're going to want to really watch it because it's a tighter curve.
So here's one that we actually use that on. And it just makes a nice finish.
Yeah.
It really does. Just a nice finish. I gotta trim some threads. There's a couple threads need to be trimmed in a couple places, but it makes a nice finish. All right. Okay, let's move on to page 33. We're going to talk invisible applique. We're going to stay with the 20D foot. So we're on there.
And again, we're going to go and take the paper off. Position.
All right, now for this particular one, we're going to use the blind stitch. stitch, which is, you can use stitch number 9 or 1331 in the quilting folder.
Right here. Okay.
And that just is going to give you a little bit of nip. Now, obviously, if you're going to do an invisible applique, you're not going to use bright orange thread on a red heart. So you would use red.
Like the 80 weight
80
would
weight
be
red thread
beautiful
would be
for
nice,
this.
yes. And the same thing works. I mean, you're just going to see where your swing is. Make sure you're right on that edge. And you're going to do your pivoting when your needle is on the outside. But you'll be able to see this stitch because we are using the orange thread, so you'll be able to see what it's doing.
But you know, if you prepare, it doesn't have, you don't have to do this raw edge either.
No, this can
You
be a needle turn.
Yep.
Or not needle turn, but turned.
Turned edge, and then sew it, and when you have the right color of thread, you don't see it.
So we teach a freezer paper applique technique in one of our classes where your shape is actually on freezer paper. You iron your freezer paper back to shape onto your backing fabric, and the wax on the freezer paper keeps the two pieces together. And you've turned your raw edges under the freezer paper, and that means you don't have to do a lot of pressing and all that business and measuring. You just cut your piece bigger than your template for your freezer paper, press your edges around, and then press the whole piece down, and you can do this to that, and it makes a very nice blind applique with the edges turned under. You slit your fabric from the back when you're done, your backing fabric, cut it around the stitching, and then just pull that freezer paper out, and it does a nice job of preventing bulk in your quilt top.
And this is faster.
Yes,
actually,
this is way
than the
faster.
buttonhole.
It is much faster.
And that, so if you didn't have the bright orange there, you wouldn't see it. You can go down smaller with your stitch length, and even you can take a little bit smaller bite. I wouldn't take too much more of a smaller bite on that.
You could take a smaller bite if you turned the edges under.
If you turned them, right.
But if you're doing raw edge,
You
if
can't.
you took a smaller bite, you would just have ravels.
Yeah, so, but that's that.
Okay.
Kind of neat.
All right, let's look at some decorative stitching. We're going to stay with, let's see, no, we're not. We're going to go on to 39.
Yeah.
We're going to, why do we have a 34 here?
Because the 39 and 34 almost look identical.
Except that the 39 is for your
short.
decorative stitches, yeah.
And it's a short open toe.
So you can
where
do
the
curves.
34 isn't.
Yeah, so your 34 and 39 both are clear feet. So it's basically, this is a 20, basically. And there's a Teflon version of this one too. A Teflon version of which number is that one? There's a green bottom version. 52 version of your decorative stitch foot. So it's a short base, and then you've got the open width there. This is a C foot, so you've got a 9mm width there. You can do the wide decorative stitches with this. And it does have markings. So it has markings. That's where your needle is. So you can see the mark there. That's centered to your needle. You can see the mark on each side. That shows you where your needle is. And then this mark back here is, what is that, a 1/2 inch?
About that, yeah.
Yeah, back that way.
So that's to help line up when you're doing some decorative work. This is when you're going to use the fun threads. So I'm going to start. You would usually start out with a line, kind of around, right back down across here, so that you can have all your designs lined up.
So just to verify, we've got our foot selected.
It's at 34. It's a C.
We got a 39
do
on
I
it,
have
so-
a 30? I have a 39 on, yeah.
Okay, so we have our piece of fabric there with some tearaway stabilizer underneath. Got our thread loaded, our zigzag throat plate is on. We're using center needle position.
Yep. And I'm going into my decorative stitches. I'm going to go into the 400 folder.
Which is your satin stitch
Right.
stitches.
So I'm going to do 401, And I'm going to, I have actually gone into my information and I have mirror imaged it up. I want my points to go up. So I touch that.
And this is on page 34 in your workbook.
I am also working on stabilizer, and I think I have 2 sheets of stabilizer under here, because these are pretty heavy stitches.
And your fabric will tunnel. If you don't have something underneath to give it a little body, the fabric will just tunnel and kind of pull in. It won't lay nice, so.
Now I'm going to stop on this one, and I want to hit my pattern end so that it will stop where it needs to, once it goes through a full pattern. So now I'm going to go in and, let's see, which one do I want? I'm going to do let's do the heart. So I want my hearts to go this way first. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to turn off my mirror image. And I am going to line up the edge of my foot along the edge of the triangles.
So you're making a pattern is what
I
you're
am.
doing.
I'm making a stitch recipe thing. And if I had that line up here, I could line that right up and it would be right even.
Where you start. Yeah.
So I'm going to start there. I just cut it again, didn't I? Okay, so here we go. I'm just keeping this edge lined up. I mean, think about doing this doing these designs maybe on a cuff or, I mean, even a border. You could do some cool things.
Make a coffee cup cozy. You could make a mug rug. You could make, you could do this on a bag, on the pocket on the outside of a bag. Doll clothes.
Okay, now I want to go, and I'm going to mirror image it from, the right to the left. I want it to start that way, the heart's going this way. So now I'm going to take this side of my foot, and I'm going to line it up with that. Okay, now let's go in. This is fun. Let's do,
Have you made your stitch Bible?
I haven't. I have it all cut out.
Do you?
Yeah, I have it all set up, but
So there's a lot of people that have, you buy a, like a photo album or like a coin collector book or
baseball
whatever.
card.
Baseball
Baseball
card,
card, yeah.
yes, with the pockets. And you get your fabric and you go through every single stitch in your menu and you stitch out a sample, 3 inches of each stitch, and then you cut. What happened?
I don't know.
You jerked. I thought something happened.
No, it did. It did it. It had a little thread, I think.
Oh. Anyway, and then they cut them apart and they put them in the little baseball cards or the coin pockets or whatever you have. And then you've got an example of what all of those stitches are at their default, which is kind of interesting. It did jump over.
It did. It jumped over there. Yeah, because I should be right up alongside this edge of this.
odd.
Yeah, I don't know why it did that. Being a satin stitch, I could easily tear that out.
Yeah. Just run your seam ripper right
Yeah.
underneath the.
Let's go ahead and replace that. That pattern end is pretty cool when you touch it. So really what it needs to do is I
Gap it a little bit more.
need to gap it just to match
To make
that
it
if I was
match,
doing it. But let's do, there was one that, let's try this one.
Oh, that's a neat one. Good.
So let's just see what that one looks like. So really, it's just fun to play with these. And this foot really makes it easy.
So you can pinpoint exactly where your needle is
Yeah.
on this one because of those markings and the fact that it's see-through. So that's kind of nice.
And so there you are. Pretty cool.
This machine stitches nicely.
Yes, it does. It's a beautiful stitch. But you can also see where stabilizer, and when I'm done, all I have to do is take this and I probably wouldn't tear them both together, but look at how easy. I mean, it just comes right out. That's the 2 layers, so it doesn't come out as easy, but just 1 layer at a time. I was with Melissa yesterday, and we were, I was showing her how to take the stabilizer out, and I get into it.
Yeah.
I said to her, you know, I'm the kind of person that likes when you get a ball of yarn and it's all knotted up. I love sitting there and just
Pulling it out.
figuring out how it comes out. So, but that's what you can do. You can do neat things.
And your stitch Bible or your stitch recipes, whatever you want to call it, that would be a nice exercise sometime if you had the time to do that. It'll take you a while. On
Yeah.
a 7 or an 8 series, you had a lot of stitches in there, or 5 series for that
The
matter.
5 has more.
Yeah, 5, then the 770.
Yeah,
not
the
the 790.
770. Yeah.
There's a lot of stitches in here. I mean, like what, 1,100, something ridiculous
there's
like that. A lot of them.
Tremendous amount.
So it'll take you a while to stitch all those out, but it'd be a fun thing to do.
And then I've also seen them take and stitch out all of the designs that are in the embroidery.
Oh, that
And
would
they
take a long
had-
time.
And they had a
book of
those. Yep.
That would take forever.
I think Brenda Johnson did it.
Did she really?
I think she did. I know she did this one with all the stitches.
a lot of stitching.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, okay, I think a couple people have done that I know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So next
that's
time.
it. I think we're gonna call it a day for this one. We'll start in with the quilting feet on the next one, which will be on page 35. We'll do machine quilting, echo quilting foot 555, echo quilting foot 44, free motion quilting, free motion stitching, and ruler work next time around.
That'll be a while.
It'll be a while. That's gonna be a long one. All right, we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.